another week, another show of Hawkeye with me, Dave OHara. Thanks for tuning in. Got another great show lined up for you this week. I know you'll think so after viewing it. Jeff Horner going to join us here in just a moment. Former Hawkeye basketball playing great. Going to talk Iowa Hawkeyes basketball, men's and women's, as well as James Morris joining us, give us his take this week on the Super Bowl, some of the Hawkeye players getting ready for the NFL draft, and those returning to the Iowa Hawkeyes next year. James will have that all covered for us, and of course, we'll close out the show with our Hawkeye Insider, Sean Bock. But that being said, there they are, Craig and Stacy Schroeder with Fight with Flash Foundation via Facebook or fightwithflash.org. Craig, Stacy, how are we doing this week?
Doing awesome.
Awesome.
Fantastic. Still in the year 2022, Flash's favorite number. Next week, when we record on the Tuesday, it'll be the 22nd. But Stacy, more good news for Margaret McCaffrey, the great work she's done. She was honored on Sunday's game against Nebraska at Carver Hawkeye Arena. Talk about that for a second, if you would, please.
Oh, it was so special to see that she was receiving the honor of the St. George Award from the American Cancer Society. So well deserved. She works so hard. She has helped fundraise over all these years. She supported so much. That is her. She's a giver and she does wonderful things, and we are blessed to have her and know her as a friend.
Really is, and I want to thank you both again for all you viewers that saw the interviews with Margaret McCaffrey, Fran McCaffrey, in Fran's office at Carver Hawkeye Arena towards the end of this last year in December, a couple months ago, and then also with Patrick and Connor McCaffrey. That was all arranged for Craig and Stacy Schroeder, very close to the McCaffreys for obvious reasons. Patrick going through his cancer battle with Flash, and boy, that was really cool to see Patrick go over and give Margaret the hug, and they both lost it emotionally, understandably so, and I think a lot of us did, by the way.
I did, just seeing the picture of it, it brought tears. It was
great
so
stuff, and Craig, you know, on a side note from talking about Margaret McCaffrey, and thanks for sharing that again, Stacy, that's great stuff. Yeah. And so Margaret's award, but we've got a little concerning news today, but I think, you know, it's going to be good for Dickie V, your friend Dick Vitale, and we've talked to you viewers about having Dick on, but obviously it's going to be a little bit more time before we can have Dick Vitale join us on the show, battling his cancer and having throat surgery today on Tuesday as we record this, February 15th. So best of luck to Dickie V. And it's just part of his process, getting through, beating cancer, and then getting him back on the broadcast booth by next fall.
Absolutely. I mean, we, our hearts go out and ask everybody to say a prayer for him, that it's a successful surgery and that there's no damage or anything else, that he'll be able to be right back in the, out broadcasting here in no time, because everybody loves his energy. It's contagious. And he brings that same energy every single time he talks about kids and cancer and any of his events. It's just, that's where it is. And if anybody who's out seeing some of the posts that he puts out there right now, motivational tips that he's been having, but he still talks about the fight versus cancer for kids, and it's nothing about him. It's all about this fight that we're all in it together, and we need every bit of support for that. And so yeah.
Yeah, that is great stuff that his battle, or he is still fighting to win that battle. But it bears repeating for both of you and all the viewers. Our work is never done. I love being a part of this with you two. And then you mentioned the Margaret McCaffreys of the world, the Dick Vitales, all the fame and all the people. Jeff Horner, who's going to join us in just a few minutes, is a cancer survivor. And so it hits everywhere to everyone. So I want to repeat to you viewers, please do anything like what Craig and Stacy both said to support the battle and fight against cancer. It's ongoing, not just against kids or the fight for kids, but also for everyone, as Craig mentioned. But again, go to Fight with Flash Foundation via Facebook or fightwithflash.org. You can find out all the information. Craig and Stacy have a bunch of dance marathons upcoming, so get ready for that. And we're still reeling from the high last week of letting you know that University of Iowa Dance Marathon raised $1.3 million. So let's keep fighting a good fight, Craig and Stacy, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Okay,
awesome.
Thank you
Sounds
so
good.
much.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much. Actually, we'll see Craig and Stacy in a couple of weeks because Gary Dolphin, I want to break news right now on today's show. Gary Dolphin, legendary Hawkeye broadcaster, is going to join us for the whole show next week. So we'll catch up with you in a couple of weeks.
Sounds good.
Very good. For Craig and Stacy, I'm Dave OHara, and Fight with Flash Foundation. We'll be back with more Hawkeye in just a few moments.
To make the Mershman Seeds delivery experience even better this year, Mershman Seeds is offering you a brand new Apple app called Mershman Delivers. It will give you the estimated time of delivery down to the second and updates you as our truck makes its way to your dealership. Mershman Delivers will provide you the answer to the number one question we get when it comes to delivery. When exactly will the Mershman truck be here? Available on the Apple App Store. Download Mershman Delivers today.
Joel from Tice Chevrolet. We've lived through some very interesting times the last few months. Ensuring everyone's safety is more important than ever. That is why we're participating in the Chevy Clean program. At your request, we will pick up your vehicle, service it, and return it after we've cleaned it using the current CDC guidelines. This is just another way to work towards exceeding your expectations. So give us a call and let us show you what it means to be part of the Tice Automotive family.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. As you can see on the screen, our buddy James Morris joining us, former Hawkeye linebacking great, also Super Bowl champion, so he knows all about what the Rams are going through right now. Going to talk to him about that and what some of the current Hawkeyes are going through right now who are either going to the NFL, so former Hawkeyes now going to the NFL, and current Hawkeyes coming back. So first and foremost, as always, James, thanks for joining us. It's been a few weeks. How's everything going with you? And good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, great to be here. No complaints other than we've just been navigating the sick kid and daycare thing in the Morris household, but hopefully that's behind us for a little while and on to hopefully warmer weather here in a month too. So
Amen to all that, my friend. So let's go. Let's start with Hawks in the Super Bowl. We talked last week with your former running mate, James Vandenberg, and we were talking about regardless of how the Super Bowl turned out with the Rams win, we were going to have Jake Gervais and A.J. Jackson, and a lot of people know him as Alaric Jackson, and or for the Bengals, Mike Daniels, guys you know very well, and Riley Reef, who weren't on the active roster for Sunday, but two Hawkeyes touching the Super Bowl Lombardi Trophy regardless. You know what that's like being in New England and winning the Super Bowl. So tell us a little bit of your experience playing with Mike Daniels and Riley Reef, please.
a Super Bowl win could not have happened to two better guys. They're two of the all-time characters, at least during the time that I was at Iowa. You know, Mike was as high energy and as good a smack talker as they come. And then Riley Reef is just kind of the epitome of, you know, the small town, good old boy that loves to play football and like to get into his fair share of trouble too along the way. So they're two great guys, and I got tremendous stories about both of them. Very few I could tell on air, but they're great guys, and I'm happy to see them having the success that they're having, especially late in their career.
Yeah, that's great stuff. And so for you, what was that experience like winning the Super Bowl and being part of the Patriots? And you're going to show us that ring one day. We're going to give you enough advance notice. But what was your experience like winning that bad boy?
Yeah, it was awesome. I didn't play in the game because I was hurt, so I will qualify that. But just being a part of a great team, and you typically know early on in the season if you're a part of a special program, and that was definitely the feeling that I had. It is the marquee sporting event, certainly in the United States. And just a tremendous thing to be a part of. And the thing about the Super Bowl, at least from a player standpoint, is the game itself is incredibly high pitched, incredibly intense, but it's the lead up to it and all the events and the parties and the media and the distractions. And there's so many opportunities to kind of stub your toe or get distracted. So the hype around this game from a player standpoint can't really be understated.
You know, James, it's interesting.
Excuse me.
Yeah, correct, right, overstated. To me, it's very similar to Riley Reef and Mike Daniels went through what you went through. They were physically unable to play and weren't on the active roster. A.J. Jackson didn't play for the Rams, but Jake Gervais played special teams. So we had some contributions from the Hawkeye Nation, so that was great stuff. So let's transition into, we had Parker Hesse on a couple of weeks ago. He's back from Atlanta, you know, being a tight end for the Falcons and got some catches this year. So major props and congrats to Parker. Again, he's back in Iowa City now training, and he had talked about running into some former Hawks who are currently going to go into the NFL draft and some Hawks who are coming back. So let's talk from your perspective. What's it like getting ready for the combine and the draft as a former Hawkeye, but still being in Iowa City to see some NFL guys, former Hawks, and some guys going back to the University of Iowa to play? Interesting perspective, I got to believe. So talk to us about that, please.
Yeah, for sure. On the guys that just graduated or just finished, it's actually a really relaxing and productive time of year for them, from the standpoint of they're coming from a time when they were extremely micromanaged and every minute of their day has been scheduled for them by the coaches and academic handlers. And now they have a little bit more a little bit more of personal responsibility for their time and flexibility. And yet at the same time, their training requirement might only be 2 to 3 hours a day, and then they have the rest of the day to maybe take 1 or 2 classes and just do with their time what they will. So I remember enjoying that time, and it just being really productive, and you can kind of focus on a very small set of goals. And so I always like that. And then just having the NFL guys back was awesome. I can remember as a player, having guys like Marshall Yonda and Aaron Campman and even Dallas Clark and some of those guys that come back to work out, and just to see how they go about their work. And then the other thing too is they would lighten up the energy a little bit too. And this is going back to Coach Doyle and him running workouts, but having those guys in there, and it was a different dynamic too, to kind of have, it'd be like having your big brother around in a way, and he could kind of add some levity or cut through the tension. So I really always liked when those NFL guys came back. And I think some of that juju rubs off on our program, just having those guys around. I know the coaches love it, love having those guys around.
Yeah, they have to. And so now let's take it from your other perspective. You came back to play for the Hawkeyes and had opportunities to look elsewhere and thought, no, I'm coming back for that one more year. What are some of those guys going through, the Jack Campbells of the world? And Sam Laporta? Let's go offense in that respect. So you got a defense guy in Campbell, offense guy in Laporta. But what are some of those guys going through in these workouts and during this time right now?
Yeah, I think things have changed a little bit since I was there, but I'm coming from kind of the Rabdo days and those really, really heavy, intense Navy SEAL-esque off-season workouts. And so January and February were huge, we call them nut cutting months, where it was really intense, really heavy lifts. It's a grind, and they want you in there at 5:30 in the morning, 6 in the morning. And this is where they really push those guys to make strength gains and weight gains. So it's a change of pace from the season in terms of the hour commitment. But when you're in that building for 3 or 4 hours a day now in the off season, you're in pain most of the time. So that's my memory of it, that we would hit the workouts hard in January, February, and March. So I'm guessing that's what those guys are going through right now. It's just a winter grind.
So with classes and the doldrums, people have seasonal affective disorder. It gets darker earlier, and you're getting there at 5:30 in the morning. It's dark then, and it's dark when you leave. So obviously that makes the season, spring football or the spring game, getting ready for the fall. You make it through, January, February, and even part of March, and you got classes. You're back after the holiday break. That really, like you said, you really do. It really is a grind, isn't it, at that time?
Yeah, it is. And then you get to spring ball, and I used to call it the season for no reason. So listen, being a college athlete is a grind. It's great because you walk around town and people know you. They want to cozy up to you. They treat you different for no real reason. But it comes with trade-offs for sure. So those guys are grinding it out in the weight room right now. And like I said, football's not sucking up as much of their time, but when they're there, they're getting their pound of flesh.
And I'll tell you, it is, I think it's far more than people realize, to your point. And I love that when you and James Vandenberg or Parker Hesse or yourself or Ike Budker, guys of your generation, and even prior to your time, it is a grind. And I think a lot of people, as you mentioned, see you athletes around town and go, oh, that's great. But there is a great deal of hard work. So I always appreciate your perspective and giving us the insights in and out of the Iowa football program. So thank you so much, James.
Yep, anytime, Dave.
So, by the way, one last tidbit before we say our goodbyes. Your guy, Tyler Linderbaum, since last you and I have talked on the air, decided, hey, I am going to the NFL. So, as you're smiling, he heeded some of your words and advice. So, it was interesting talking to Parker Hesse, and he said that Tyler reached out to him too. And just funny that he really didn't want to come back. And Parker said, man, if getting rolled up in the third quarter, getting rolled up on in that Kentucky bowl game, if that didn't say I need to go to the NFL. So your thoughts about your fellow Solon high school alum and obviously a former Hawkeye like you. What are your thoughts on Tyler going to the NFL?
I'm happy for him. I'm glad he found religion and made the right choice. And hopefully here in a couple of months, we'll have another fellow Solon Spartan on NFL roster, and all will be right in the world.
Yeah, I think so. To hear Parker Hesse say it, he said, I told Tyler Linderbaum, he said, Tyler, there are probably maybe 6 to 8 NFL centers right now who are better than you. So I think he's got a very bright future on Sundays, to your point.
Yep, be smart, play healthy, and keep it rolling.
That's all you can do. The words to live by. He's James Morris, former Solon High linebacker, former Iowa Hawkeye linebacking great, and Super Bowl champion with the New England Patriots back in the day. So, James, as always, thank you so much. Look forward to catching up with you very soon. He's James Morris. Thanks, James.
Yep, anytime, Dave. Looking forward to the next one.
Me too as well. Thank you so much. For James Morris, I'm Dave OHara. Back with more to close out the show with our good buddy Sean Bock from Hawkeye Insider. Back with more in just a few moments.
Hi, I'm Joel from Tice Automotive Family. We're living through some of the most interesting and challenging times many of us have ever seen. Knowing who you can rely on is more important than ever. Many of us turn to our families to get us through, and the same holds true here. From our fair, upfront pricing to exceptional service after the sale, we truly want to exceed your expectations. So give us a call or stop by and let us show you what it means to be part of the Tice Automotive family.
Who do you trust to produce the best yield? A seed company that's chasing technology or a seed company that's writing the book on it? Hi, this is Joe Mershman. Mershman Seeds has been treating soybeans for decades, long before it was commonplace. We're the leader in technology, introducing Mershman Seeds' latest advancement in seed treatment, with an added fungicide to help produce a faster, more even emergence every single time. Who can you trust with your yields? Mershman Seeds, your friend in the field.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave OHara. I got to correct myself from earlier in the show. Jeff Horner is not able to join us this week. I will say they had a very late night road trip victory for the Truman State Bulldogs, by the way. So Jeff will be joining us in a couple of weeks, but the Truman State Bulldogs have won their last 5 in a row, now at 18-6 overall and 12-4 in the GLVC in the conference. So they're leading the conference. They got 3 big games left in the next week. So we'll be catching up with Jeff in a couple of weeks. Remember, programming note, all next week during the whole show, Gary Dolphin, legendary Hawkeye broadcaster, will be joining us here. So cannot wait for that. He'll be in studio, in person, sitting in the same spot as our good buddy, Hawkeye Insider, Sean Bock. So Sean, first and foremost, how you doing? And secondly, get that seat all warmed up for Dolph next week, right?
Yeah, I'm doing well. And yeah, I got a bar to raise for Dolph. He's gonna, yeah, I'm doing good, It's been a couple, not as busy weeks, but still always stuff going on. So
yeah, it is. And as I mentioned to the viewers earlier, when we had Craig and Stacy on earlier with Fight with Flash Foundation and then James Morris, I kept mentioning that we were going to have Jeff Horner on. Again, Jeff will not join us this week, but he'll be back in a couple of weeks. Former Hawkeye basketball playing great. So some of the things I was going to talk to Jeff about, I want to talk to you about. You and I are going to talk recruiting, Hawkeye football and basketball, but I want to talk to you about efficiency numbers that came out. And boy, I don't think it's any great secret that Keegan Murray now with the Iowa Hawkeye men's, the last 2 games, 67 points, a 30 spot against Maryland, and he didn't play much, in 29 minutes, and then ends up getting 37 in 30 minutes against Nebraska, another blowout on Sunday. His last 2 games, but let's talk about the whole year in totality. There was a great column on ESPN.com yesterday, and it talked about the efficiency, and you can now put Keegan Murray's numbers up with the likes of Frank Kaminsky back in the day, Devin Harris. So some pretty stout names to put your name up there in the Big Ten laurels of history with efficiency. But what I want to talk to you about is it's not just Keegan's efficiency. Chris Murray, his twin brother. We've had both these guys on the show, so I'm saying it's the Hawkeyed with Dave OHara effect, right? That they both, but the efficiency numbers, and you and I were talking about this off the air. Before we get to Keegan, look at some of the shots. Chris has missed a few bunnies around the basket. His numbers would be off the charts. So we'll talk about Chris in a minute, but we got to talk about Keegan Murray. Unreal stuff. Another Player of the Week honor that he gets with Geo Baker. Rutgers is having a heck of a run right now, but Keegan Murray getting it done.
Yeah, and I think he'd be talked about a lot more in the Big Ten if it weren't for guys like Kofi Coburn, Jaden Ivey, and Johnny Davis too. Keegan was a big storyline entering the year because everyone was like, okay, where did this kid come from? But if you followed Iowa basketball closely, you know that it was only a matter of time. And the offseason buzz throughout, the whole summer months was Keegan's at a different level than everyone else. And it seems like Chris is the only one that, might be close to that level. And it's not a knock on any of the other guys on the team, but Keegan was just playing at an insane level. And, based on, everything that what we heard throughout the offseason, it really lines up to see what Keegan has done. And, you talk about those efficiency numbers. There was a stretch, too, where, he wasn't as efficient. And now to see him really put that together, granted, not as good Big Ten teams that they played in the last couple of contests, but, it's still really interesting, still really fascinating to see, and, has only helped his NBA draft stock that much more.
NBA draft stock, I think this is way too early, but we live in that world, so let's go there. I've heard lottery pick. I've even heard some guys in the NBA have talked about him being even as high as numbers as a sixth pick. So, barring major injury or major collapse here, to me it seems like even when the competition is there, and he mentioned this in his post-game comments on the national game when he was being post-game interviewed, and he said, if I can stay out of foul trouble, and I talked about that a couple weeks ago, if he can stay out of first half foul trouble especially, because Fran has that rule, and viewers, I know you don't like it, but it's reality. It's not changing. In 12 years, it hasn't changed. Yeah. It's not changing. You get 2 fouls in Fran McCaffrey's system in the first half, whether it's minute 16 or minute 10 or minute 4, you're coming out, right? And you're sitting the rest of the half. So if he can stay out of foul trouble and average that 28 to 32-minute game range, tough for the competition, he seems to rise to that level as well. But you're all right. It was against Maryland and against Nebraska, but he's going to be tested upcoming soon. By the time you view this show, viewers, the Hawks will have played Michigan at Carver Hawkeye Arena, and let's talk about what happened to Michigan this year. And then they'll have that makeup game on Saturday against Ohio State in Columbus. So that got snowed out a couple of weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And then we'll talk to Gary Dolphin next week about their upcoming games against, obviously, Michigan State when we record next Tuesday. That's at Carver Hawkeye Arena. And then, of course, they play at Nebraska, then at home for senior night against Northwestern on the 28th to end February. Close out the year on the road on March 3rd and March 6th at Michigan and at Illinois, respectively. So let's you and I hone in on Michigan. First of all, how's that looking? We're going to do a little preview, even though you'll know the result by now, viewers. So, Sean, you're putting yourself out there. Yeah. How do you see this game upcoming against Michigan?
Yeah, that's going to be a really fascinating matchup down low, especially with Hunter Dickinson of Michigan. Because, I mean, when he plays at a really high level, Michigan's a tough team to beat. And I know they've had a lot of struggles this year, and, you know, they were expected to be top 2, top 3, top 4 in the Big Ten. But it really hasn't worked out that way. And they needed that win last week against Purdue. That was a must win. And, you know, that kind of goes to show, and I think that's what's going to bite, you know, the Big Ten in the butt too, late when it comes NCAA tournament time, is how much these teams beat up on each other. And not to say that Michigan and Purdue is going to be that's going to be a tough loss or a bad loss for Purdue, but that could still really impact an NCAA tournament scene, you know, potentially hurt some of the other teams in the field.
Oh, absolutely. And you see that happen with Ohio State, either due to COVID or weather. And now they're coming back. Ohio State's kind of recently been up, down, up, down. Mm-hmm. What a move Rutgers has made. My goodness. Yeah. Thank goodness Iowa doesn't have to play them again. They lost a tough game out at the rack at Rutgers a couple of weeks or a month ago. But, you know, all Rutgers has done their last 3 games is beat Michigan, Ohio State, and Michigan State, which is what I was hoping to do. So looking forward to catching up with that. Of course, we've talked about Caitlin Clark. Tough night for Caitlin last night. Had 19 points but didn't shoot very well, and they lost a tough game at home to Maryland last night. And Brenda Fries. It took somebody from Cedar Rapids, Iowa to slow down Caitlin Clark, and that's Brenda Fries, Maryland's coach. But Sean, let's you and I talk in the last couple of minutes we have with you here. Recruiting. Let's talk basketball. Let's talk football, but primarily football. You know, a lot of people wanted to know signing day a couple of weeks ago. How come Iowa didn't do much? They just had one major signing in Lee out of Illinois. Well, you've documented this very well for us. The Hawks and most schools now are doing their work before the first of the year in December, right?
Yeah, and actually it's been a little different. I think the 2020 class, Iowa didn't even sign a guy in the late signing period. I think their last commit might have committed in like October, leading up to early signing day, so they were done and, you know, onward at that point. And yeah, I mean, in 2022 they found Deshaun Lee out of Belleville, Michigan, which is a school that Iowa fans and, you know, Iowa's really familiar with, having Kayvon Merriweather, Brendan Diaz-Fernandez, 2 defensive backs for the Hawkeyes. And Lee's a really intriguing pickup. Wasn't really, you know, highly sought after. Had a couple MAC offers. Boston College was close to offering. Pittsburgh had him an offer at one point, but, you know, with football, those can always be fluid. Wisconsin was showing a lot of interest, but, you know, if it really weren't for Iowa or Boston College to offer, Lee was going to go D2. And yeah, it's a very, very interesting story. And, you know, everything was kind of, you know, put under the carpet a little bit. No one really, you know, brought up anything. It was pretty low key, that whole recruitment. But, you know, once Iowa got him on campus, liked him, I think they offered him a few days before, but like I said before, everything was really quiet. And he's going to be a cash guy for Iowa. That's kind of like what they're looking at.
That cash position, yeah, Dane Belton and that, yeah. Yep. Let's do this, 45-second speed round with you. Hawks, new Hawks, upcoming Hawks for the football season. On campus now is early arriving freshmen. Talk about those, please.
Yeah, TJ Hall, cornerback out of California. Xavier Nwangpa, obviously from Southeast Polk. Drew Stevens, a kicker out of South Carolina, who I think, will really challenge for that kicking spot, that starting kicker spot with Caleb Shudak gone. And then Brian Allen, who is originally from Illinois, went to Connecticut, St. Thomas More. And then I'm missing one more.
We got most of
Caden
them.
Crawford.
There you go, Caden Crawford.
Who another guy that's really, that the Iowa staff is really hot on. As I've been hearing, he's put up some really good weight room numbers in the last couple weeks too, early on. So be one to watch in the next couple years for sure.
Gotta put it right there. Sean, great stuff from you as always. Thanks for joining us in studio. Thanks for the extended time. So for Sean Bock, James Morris, Craig and Stacy Schroeder, and to you, the viewers, I'm Dave OHara with Hawkeye. Be sure to tune in next week, the whole show with legendary Hawkeye broadcaster Gary Dolphin. So until next week, I'm Dave OHara with Hawkeye. That's all from me. Thanks to all of you. And as always, thanks for staying tuned at the end of the program for these rolling credits to give our advertisers and sponsors the attention and credit they so richly deserve. And as always, to our aforementioned guests and to you, the viewers. That's all from us at Hawkeye. Thanks to all of you.